one Mr. The Torah writes about the prohibition of doing shrita, right? Of scraping oneself. And the Torah uses two different words to this prohibition. One word the Torah used was the word gedida. You're not allowed to make a gedida on your body. And one word the Torah used was the word seret. And the Gemara is going through to understand what is the meaning of seret, what is the meaning of gedida, and that's what we got yesterday. We got to the top of the page yesterday. That some of you'll see that shrita and gedida is achati. That Rav Yossi went on record to say that they're both shrita and gedida are both considered the same. They're not two different items. It's not that they're two different items. They're both the same. Good morning, Jaime. Good morning. We are on Chaf Aleph Amud Aleph. So the Gemara said yesterday that the word shrita, when the Torah says don't make a scrape in your body, the person passes away, or don't cut yourself, or the Torah says you don't make a gedida. They both imply whether using an instrument or whether using your hand, your nails to cut yourself. If someone to cut himself with his nails or to cut himself with some instrument, they're both included in the word seret, and they're both included in the word gedida. That's what the Gemara says. It refers to both actions. Okay? Now, comes Shmuel, Amar Shmuel. With that backdrop, comes Shmuel. Now he makes this statement. Amar Shmuel. Second line from the top. It should be in the Art Scroll 21a. It's about 10 lines from the top. Amar Shmuel. Beginning of the second paragraph, pretty much. Amar Shmuel. Hamisareit bekli chayav. If someone scrapes himself as a sign of mourning for a relative or any person that passed away, if he scrapes himself with a kli, with a utensil, he is chayav. Chayav means he's obligated lashes, right? As we said, there are 207 cases of the Torah that a person gets lashes, and this is one of the 207. So the obvious question is, what is a chidush? There's a pasuk in the Torah that says you can't scrape yourself. So what is Shmuel coming to say? The sareit bekli, if someone scrapes himself with a utensil, he uses a knife, chas v'sholom, to scrape himself, he gets malchut. It's an obvious pasuk in the Torah. So what is Shmuel saying? So comes the Rivan, because he lost a relative, a sign of mourning, and the Torah does not want a person to do this. Some say this is an excessive level of mourning, that the Torah does not want a person, there's something called mourning, and there's something overdoing it. The Torah doesn't want a person to overdo it, right? Yes, you want to say, Mr. Savage? What say? Yeah, to get lashes, he has to have been warned. Correct. He has to have been told, he has been warned, and he's doing it intentionally in front of two witnesses. So if you look at, now, by the way, the commentary on the side, even though it says Rivan, I don't know if it says in your Gemara, it doesn't say Rivan, it looks like Rashi, but Rashi, not so long ago, his commentary had stopped. And this commentary on the bottom, on the side, it's his son-in-law, the Rivan. That's the, sometimes you might call it Rashi, but really we mean the Rivan. That's the commentary here. It looks like Rashi letters on the right side. So if you look at the Rivan, Hamasarit Bekli, 2 lines from the top, the end of the first top line, Chayav. So you have it, Mr. Safdie? Hamasarit, the top line of the page, where it says, which the Rashi letters, which is the Rivan, the last word of the line is Hamasaret. Yaron, you got it? Hamasaret. Like the Navid, 21a. Hamasaret. Havadi Pshita. Look, it's obviously to everybody the Ika Gedida Mashma Bekli. That when you use the term Gedida, generally it's mostly used when you refer to cutting with a utensil. The Ika Srita, and when a person uses the word Srita, good morning, Yehuda, Srita is Mashma Biyad, a person who uses his hands. Now, Become a Shmuel. And Shmuel's contribution, what Shmuel's coming to teach us, that Hamisarit Bekli al Hametz. Even the word, you could use the word Misaret when you're referring to a utensil. That Hamisaret Bekli al Hametz Chayav. If you use a utensil on a mate and he uses the word Misaret, he didn't say the word Megaded. Lashminan, the shame svita, what is coming to teach us, morning, Adam, is the word seret. Good morning, Mark. That the word seret refers to both a utensil and not only the hand, which is generally used when you say the word seret, it also refers to utensil. And if a person makes a wound to himself with a utensil, if he uses a knife on himself, not only is he violating the prohibition of Gedidah, which usually Gedidah implies a utensil, it also violating the prohibition of Seret. So therefore, that's what Shmuel comes to tell us, that there's two violations of the Torah that are happening in one shot. There are two lavim, there are two prohibitions that are being violated by cutting oneself with a utensil, with using a knife. What are the two violations? One, the Torah says lo sisko to do, which is the language of Gedidah, and another prohibition is seret. And both the word Gedidah and seret both refer to using a knife. And the Gemara before said it means both refer to using a knife and also both refer to using your hand. It implies both. It is an umbrella term that could imply both. It's generally, sometimes you have a word, you look up in a dictionary. What does this word mean? So a dictionary will give you three definitions. And usually the first definition, I would speculate, is the more common definition, the use of the word. Correct, Mr. Haber, I would think? And then the second definition is another way it's also used. It might not be the primary use of the word, but it is a usage of the word. And that's what Shmuel is telling us. Shmuel is telling us maybe the primary usage of the word seret. When you say the word seret, the Webster Dictionary would translate it, the general use of seret is with your hand. You're using one's bare nails to cut himself. But they will also say that the usage of the word seret could also refer to using a utensil. And that's what that's Shmuel's chidush, Adam. Shmuel's chidush is that if a person uses a utensil on a knife to cut himself, he is violating both the word Gedidah, the primary word, and it also violates the other prohibition that Torah says don't make a seret. And seret also refers to using a utensil. That is Shmuel's contribution to us. That's his chidush. Now the Gemara,
Rabbi, is there no such concept of one crime, one punishment? Is there no such thing as if you do something once that you wouldn't get two punishments for one thing?
That's Mark's point. Mark's point is that's talking when you have a higher punishment and a lower punishment, we give him the higher punishment. That's kimle b'dramine. But if they're both equal punishments, we could give multiple punishments. If they're both lashes, we could give multiple sets up. We're going to see. You could give a guy. The Gemara is going to give a case. He could do one act, one act, and he could get 8 sets of lashes for one act because he violates many prohibitions. Since they're all of equal punishment, it's not one greater punishment.
So equal punishments, you could get multiple. If there's a lower one and a higher one, they give you the higher one, and you get released for the lower one.
Low one or higher one, he just gets the higher one. We don't give him the lower one. Correct.
So if someone cut themselves, use their hand and a knife,
hand or a knife. If he used according to Shmuel, for sure Shmuel is going on record regarding a knife. We have to see more. Rabbi Yossi holds Shmuel's going on record clearly by a knife. If he uses a knife, he will get 2 punishments. He will get the punishment.
This has nothing to do with an avil.
No, yes, he is cutting himself. The reason why he's doing it is because of an avil. Cause of a
So
sign of
if
mourning.
someone cut themselves from the Holocaust, 6 million Jews, he's gonna get lashes for the rest of his life.
If what, if what, if someone, as a sign of mourning for the Holocaust, if he cuts himself, yes.
Six,
If
6 million
warned,
Jews
again.
he's gonna get about 30 million lashes.
Because if he cuts himself for all, as a sign of mourning for all those Jews. I hear what you're saying. If he's cutting for many Jews at one, right, that's according to this. If he's warned, again, like Mr. Safdie points out, we're talking about the lashes are only when a person is warned, he would, that, right. And the Torah does not want us to do that. And again, this is only when a person is warned, he's notified, he understands what's at stake, and he knows he's going to get lashes, but he doesn't want to listen. So the Gemara says, so the Gemara challenges Shmuel's halacha. Now, we don't have a letter of the Rambam on Shmuel's statement, which might indicate that the halacha is not following Shmuel, that he does not get 2 sets of lashes for this one cut. So, but Shmuel was of that opinion. So it doesn't seem that the law might not follow him, but that's his opinion. So the Gemara challenges Shmuel. Meitive, I'll ask you a question. Srita v'gedida achati. Srita and gedida, they are both ideas of making a wound on one's body. And they're both about making a wound for someone who passed away. However, ela shrita biyad. Srita is done with one's fingernails, let's say, with his hands, and gedida is bekli, and gedida is with the utensil. So the challenge to Shmuel is, Shmuel went on record said that that he identified the word seret refers to both the utensil and both the hand. And the challenge is, we see seret only refers to one's hand, only using a hand to inflict the wound, not an instrument. So that's the Gemara's challenge of Shmuel. You, Rabbi Shmuel, said that when the Torah says don't cut yourself, don't do a seret, you said it means both the hand, it implies both using your hand and both using a utensil. But we have a braita that says no, that seret is very specific. And that's to address yesterday's question. Someone made a comment, I think maybe Jake. The Torah used 2 different languages. It referred to one as a seret and one as a gedidah. And this opinion says the Torah is being very specific by changing the language because it's talking about 2 different ways of doing it. One is talking about using one's fingernails or one's nails, one's physical hands. There's a question in the halacha. Does it mean just the nails of the person? Does it mean also if a person would hit himself and cause a wound? Is that also included in that? So, but this brisa says seret is very specific to using one's nails, one's hand, and gedida is referring to an instrument. That's why the Torah used 2 different words to describe. See, anytime the Torah uses 2 different types of words to describe, you have to ask yourself why the Torah uses 2 different words. So this opinion says because they're talking about 2 different cases. One's a case describing using one's hand to cut himself, and one's cutting himself with an instrument. So the Gemara answers, how would he explain himself? Because Rabbi Shmuel is not going to argue on an earlier braita. The earlier braita says that seret is very specific. It's only referring to using his own hands. So the Gemara says, Hu da'amah ki Rabbi Yossi. He agrees, he has a Tana on his side. It's true. We found a braita, an early rabbi that says that seret does not include a utensil. It only refers to one's hand. But we have a Rabbi Yossi on record that we learned yesterday that he says that they're interchangeable words, that they both refer to each word refers both to using on a utensil and both using one's hand. So therefore he holds, there'll be 2 sets of lashes. By telling us the same meaning, good morning, Simon. Good morning. Since the Torah is telling us the same thing twice, it's telling us both, it's prohibiting why the Torah is telling us again, you can't do this act of cutting oneself? Because the Torah is teaching us, here's the Gemara, but you could, if you want to use this Gemara. Marking here. So the Gemara, that there's two sets of lashes for this one act. That's what the Gemara wants to say. Yes. Right. Right. Say it again. Because the Gemara, because they're not, Shmuel's, let's say, not around to talk to. Shmuel's not in the Beit Midrash. Shmuel made a statement, and after Shmuel made a statement, now in the yeshiva, they're analyzing his statement. They're questioning it. They don't understand. So in the Beit Midrash, they came with an answer. They came up with an answer. How do you explain Shmuel? So that's what the Gemara is doing. When the rabbi makes a statement, and now you have to go ahead and try to figure out and understand what the rabbi is saying, right? He might not be around anymore. The rabbi might have passed on. We try to figure out what he's saying. Yes, that's what you make. You know what? You're in the Beit Midrash. We hit. Let's say like we are today. We have a statement from Shmuel, and we want to understand what he's saying. We don't understand. How could he argue on the earlier rabbi? So therefore, that's what we're doing in the Beit Midrash, trying to figure out Shmuel. Now, Tana Kamed the Rabbi Yochanan. So we have the Gemara says another statement that there was a Tana, someone who would record over. So we're saying this in Machloket. So we have Shmuel is on the side of Rabbi Yossi, 2 sets of lashes, and the other opinion says there'll be only one for one act. Right. Now comes the Gemara. Tana Kamed Rabbi Yochanan. The Tana learned in front of Rabbi Yochanan. Al mate, if someone goes ahead and cuts himself for a mate, bein biyad, bein bekli chayav. Whether he goes ahead and he made this wound with his hand, whether he made this wound with a utensil, he is chayav. He is obligated lashes for any of these type of acts. But if he cut himself, God bless you, if he cut himself in order to serve the idol, it's a sign of service. There's an avodah zarah, there's an idol that the way you serve it is like making wounds in your body. That's the way to serve it. That's a sign of dedication, that they're willing to cut themselves, give up their blood for like it's like a sign of like a sacrifice of some sort to the idol. So if he does it for avodah zarah, so this reading that the Tana said, the way he quoted it, was it depends how he did it, because biyad chayav mitah. If he did it with his hand, because that's the normal way to serve it. So if that's a normal way to serve it, he would get chayav, death, for such an act. Some even say, even if it's not the normal way to serve it, but since it's that's a real avodah zarah. If it's an avodah zarah and you serve this avodah zarah, he will get killed for this act, chayav. But if he did, one second, because here we're going to see, because this is talking about cutting oneself. Yeah. It's true. But we're bringing it in to contrast the laws of cutting oneself for a mate, for a dead person, and cutting oneself for avodah zarah. The Gemara is going to say that for a dead person, for a person who passed away, it doesn't make a difference how you cut yourself, how a person cut themselves. He's obligated to lashes. But to get this punishment for the avodah zarah, the way the Gemara says, it depends if you did it with your hand or you did it with what? A utensil. And the first way, the report that the rabbi said in front of Rabbi Yochanan, he said it's the be chayav, to be liable, is with the hand. However, if he cut himself with a kli, if he cut himself with a utensil, the Gemara, his report was a utensil. That's not the way they would do it. The rabbi thought that he had a reading, his memory. Good morning, Yosef, was that a utensil would be exempt from that punishment. That's not the normal way to serve the idol by using a utensil. But the Gemara questions this because we have a pasuk in the Tanakh. We have it the opposite in the Tanakh when Eliyahu Hanavi came and he rebuked the people. And he told the people that Avodah Zarah, the idol, has no power. Stop serving all these idols, he told the Jewish people. And they said, we'll make a test. And what was the test? And he'll make a test, and the false prophets will make a test. And nobody will bring any fire. And if fire comes down, that's a sign where whoever's offering is accepted. You want to know who's the true God? He said there'll be a fire that will come down from heaven and will consume the offering. So what happened first is the false prophets, they built an altar and they started bringing offerings to their idols. They started screaming out to their idols. And what happened was the fire still didn't come down from heaven. And what did they do? Part of their service to call out to their God was they cut themselves for the Avodah Zarah. They thought by cutting themselves, these false prophets, maybe they will be answered, and nothing happened. Nothing happened. And only that, but then when Eliyahu did his thing, then the fire came down from heaven. That's when they said, "Hashem hu Elokim, Hashem hu Elokim." You know, that was the story over there. Yes.
Morning being not accepting the Makkos.
So, yes, I think the Sefer Chinuch brings both points. When it comes to when a person there is this excessive mourning, and also it's also connected to Avodah Zarah, to stay away from.
The root of excessive mourning is basically denying Makkos. Over mourning is a contradiction.
Right, because over mourning is one of the commentaries saying that if a person realizes that their father is still alive, Hashem is here, Avinu Shebashamayim, so therefore they wouldn't over mourn. And also the idea is that the person also will live on. You know, when a person passes away, it's not that it's over. It's we don't see the person here, but the person will live on. So therefore, maybe that's also
all these regulations are
both concepts. According to the Sefer Chinuch, both concepts apply. And so the Gemara says, so we see Va'ipcha Ketiv. The Gemara says, good morning, Michael. We see the opposite, right, Morris? We see the opposite in the Pasuk in Malachim. It says, Vayizgodedu kimishpatam. Those false prophets who worshipped idols, they cut themselves like the normal way. Becharavot ubermachim. They used swords. They were very intense. Swords and spears. These are heavy instruments to cut themselves, to show that's really one sign of worship. Look how far they will go. This is for Avodah Zarah. So this Gemara, the Gemara is proving they don't use your hand. We see the normal way to do it is using an instrument. So that's the Gemara's question. The rabbi reported in front of, he said with the hand. That's what he said. That's what he said in front of Rabbi Yochanan. So he's reporting a statement in front of Rabbi Yochanan that this is what the Breita says. Rabbi Yochanan says, and the Gemara says that can't be, because we know that the normal way is with a utensil. We see from the pasuk in Tanakh that it's clearly. I mean, if you ever report that there's a difference between a hand and a utensil by Avodah Zarah, it can't be It can't be that the utensil is the one that you don't get the punishment, and the punishment is for the hand. Because we clearly see from the pasuk of Tanakh that the more normal, the usual way they would do that, they would serve that with the zara by cutting themselves is with a utensil. So therefore, the Gemara says, Ela'ema, so you have to say, the Gemara says, the yad patur. Because we see it's clear that the normal way was a utensil. Again, yeah, but the Braita is not going to argue on a pasuk. Meaning there's a pasuk in Malachim that shows us that the normal way to do it was with a utensil. So the Gemara says, Ela'ema, there has to be the opposite. Ela'ema, you have to say that biyad is patur. If he did it with his hand, it's patur, but bekli, but if he used a utensil, he would be what? Chayav. But when he reported his report, he's saying that his report was that he mixed up that what you have that report, you made a mistake in your report because it can't be that that's the correct. Remember, the reporting is by hearing, by balpeh, by memory. What I heard from someone else. Well, you think you mixed up these two laws because it has to be that the hand would be the one that's obligated. No, the Braita was just talking about a general law by when it comes to idol worship, which is the thing that would be the more normal thing. But it seems like they're pretty consistent. Didn't change. The tradition of worshiping idols remained. That they go with their tradition. Shmuel was talking about a person doing it for mourning purposes, not for avodah zarah. This is talking about for avodah zarah. He would agree that avodah zarah is different. Yes. Okay, so the Gemara continues. If it's a normal way to do it, because if it's not the way to serve avodah zarah, you won't be. What? We would have to look up the halacha. Okay, v'chayiv al harosh. Now the Gemara continues. We're getting back to the head, finishing up the end of explaining the Mishnah. V'chayiv al harosh. A person is obligated on the head. There's two places on the head that we said. There's two corners of the head that you can't remove the peyot, the corners of the head. V'chayiv al harosh ta'im. And the Mishnah did not, it says Yechayiv there's two cases, there's two sides. The Mishnah did not exactly identify where is the corner of the head, exactly what area on the head. Just says one over here and one over there. So one here and one there. Okay, where is it? So the Gemara says, Machli Rav Sheshet. Rav Sheshet, probably he was teaching it to his students. So he showed himself, he showed being Pirkei Reisha, by the temples over here, by this area over here, he showed everybody this is where the corner of the hair is. Okay, we don't have his picture exactly how he showed it, but this area, and therefore the way it's generally explained, you take by the top of the ear, you draw a line. This whole area is considered the corner, and that's the corner of the head. Right, like the picture, similar to the picture of the priest that we saw, how they cut off this area. That's what the priests do. Now,
Which one came first? He's not do that because you don't want to be like Goyim, or did they do that? It's not allowed.
right. So the Rambam understands that what Jaime was talking about before about avodah zarah refers to this as well. The Rambam understands that the cutting off of the side was a sign of that's how those who worshipped idols. This is what they did. They would cut off the side. So therefore the Rambam says that is the intent. He suggests that is the intent of the Torah's law. The Torah did not give us a reason. But he says the intent of the law of the Torah, what he understands, he suggests reasons for different mitzvahs. Good morning, Gary. He says the intent of the Torah law is to keep us away from idol worship. Anything to do with it. What? It's an open pasuk that says there's a prohibition that says you're not allowed to round your head. That's what the Torah says. That you're rounding your head when you cut off the sideburns, you're rounding head. But now you're making like a bow, right? You're rounding your head. But the Torah didn't say what's the problem, what's the reason for why you can't round your head, why you can't use the cutoff over here. So the Rambam says it's to teach us stay away from idol worship. Others that say differently. No, it does. They don't say it's because of idol. They just say that's what the Torah. But obviously, it's a chok. But again, every chok has reason. We might not know the reason. There's a beautiful Rambam that says we should always try to suggest reason, try to understand what the reason might be. We even found Shlomo HaMelech. He said, "I'm going to try to figure everything out." He figured everything but paraduma. Maybe he didn't reach the level to understand, but every other chok he figured out. Why you can't eat? Why you can't wear shatnez and all different things? You can figure it out. We have to try to figure it out. We have to try to explain it. We have to realize the Torah is not just gives us laws that have no meaning. Everything has meaning. Okay, we have to look more into it. Okay, there's reasons. It has to do with Cain and Hevel has to do with there's certain reasons that have to do. So the Gemara says. So the Gemara continues. Machli. So the Gemara says, "V'chayev al harosh." So we just said he's obligated on the head. Machli Rav Sheshet v'pirkei reisha. So Rav Sheshet sewed. We said this the temples. V'lazakan shtayim mikan, and we said on the beard. There's 5 places on the beard. Now we have to identify where are the 5 places on the beard. So also the Gemara says, 2 on each side and 1 underneath. So Machli Rav Sheshet being Pirkei Dikna. He also showed the 5 corners of the face. And again, where exactly are the 5 corners? Some say it's the 2 of them are at the ends of the mustache, 2 of them are over here on the chin. Some say 2 here, 2 here. 2 over here. This is the more common. Most people would say, I presume, these 2. That's some opinions. Another opinion that says at the end of the mustache. There's also this area over here. Also, good morning, Mr. Shetrit. Good morning. It's also considered. The corner of the head, the corner of the beard. So we have 5 points because we don't know exactly where the spots are on the face. So therefore, we don't shave with the razor anywhere on the face or the chin, or on, we stay away from a razor on the face. Okay, so the Gemara says, Rabbi Eliezer Omer. Rabbi Eliezer says, if you took off if you did 1 razor shave and of the whole beard, he disagrees with the opinion that we said that there's 5 sets of, the person could be obligated 5 sets of 5 malkiot for 1 act. He says, Rav Sheshet says there's only, not Rav Sheshet, Rabbi Eliezer says he's going to get 1 set of lashes. Why? He's not going to give, even though there's 5 corners of the beard, but he looks at the 5 corners not as 5 separate prohibitions, right? He looks at the 5 corners that it's all one prohibition. So if it's one prohibition, so if you do the same prohibition, if a guy goes ahead and in the Torah and you warn a guy don't eat pork, right? And he goes ahead and he eats multiple olive sizes of pork at one time, right? To get lashes for eating pork, you have to eat an olive size, correct? A guy puts 2 olive sizes of pork in his mouth, right? Or if a guy goes ahead, so the question would be, if a guy would take let's say, if you eat two at one time, you get 1 set of lashes, correct? Because you did 1 violation. What's the prohibition? Torah says don't eat pork. So the fact that you ate many sizes of pork at one time, would still you get only one. You did one violation. You violated one pasuk in the Torah. But if you go ahead and you same way you do that, if you go ahead and you shave your beard with a razor.
It's kind of fixed the idea of you get 5 sets of legs, one head, 5 people.
No, but this is a different. Okay, the question is here. He's arguing. Okay, but he's arguing again. The question is he also arguing in that case? Here we see Rabbi Eliezer in the Mishnah.
I believe we see on the side.
No. It's intentional. Again, what's the case of Gazayit? If a guy eats less than an ounce of pork, he does not get lashes. Less than an ounce. He did a violation, but he didn't do an amount significant enough to give him lashes for it. Not lashes, but correct. It's called Chatzi Shir. It's called, you did half the measurement. Say half the measurement. There is a machloket, by the way. If half the measurement is forbidden min Torah or not. It's not. It is a machloket, but so it's not meaning if we say we hold that it's forbidden min Torah. That's the general way we go. So it's just the Torah says to give a guy lashes, you have to have done something more of significance. A guy goes ahead and he ate a little paste of pork. We're not going to give him just like on Shabbat. Let's say there's a prohibition of writing. One of the melachot on Shabbat, you're not allowed to write on Shabbat. So the guy, and I think when I recall is you have to write to get killed. He has to get two letters. But if he writes one letter, we're not. That's not significant. Certain things have shiurim. Even whatever laws of Shabbat, everything has an amount that has to have. You're doing something of accomplishing something that has some real meaning to it. Just like we have, cutting hair on Shabbat. If a person would cut 2 hairs, let's say, that would be the amount to get the full. But if he cuts 1 hair, so he did a violation. He did half the shear. Even on Pesach, you have a mitzvah. Let's talk on the positive. You have a mitzvah to eat matzah. If you eat just a small bite of matzah, it's not enough. You did not fulfill your obligation. I ate matzah on Pesach. You have to have a kazayit. You have to have a certain amount, right? You have to have an ounce. So that's the Minchat Chinuch discusses it. Minchat Chinuch discusses the same way there's a prohibition. If you, on the negative side, eating less than the size, it's still prohibited. You're doing something, even though you don't get lashes, but it's accomplishing a prohibition. So maybe if a person's not able to eat a kazayit of matzah, it's also considered you're accomplishing something. You're not accomplishing the fullest, meaning there might be a mitzvah, but you didn't get the mitzvah to its fullest. He discusses this question. Also, the same thing. There's a prohibition of chametz, any amount of chametz, but to get the punishment for chametz also would have to be. Torah says chametz, he gets parade. If a guy eats chametz on Pesach, also would have to be a kazayit of Pesach. We have many stringencies when it comes to nullification, different things that a lot of rabbinic stringencies on Pesach, but really,
Rabbi,
from a Torah level, Pesach is the same. You need similar eating of anything else of the year. But
Rabbi,
yes,
would pulling the hair be the same as cutting the hair?
we saw pulling the hair. There's different shiurim. We saw pulling the hair. We saw might be a size of a bean. They're different sizes. Okay, I want to wish everyone a beautiful day, a beautiful davening. Thank you all for coming. A beautiful crowd.
Thank you,
Thank
Rabbi.
you very much.
Great day.
Great day. You too. Yeah, we'll see. Take care, Yosef. Good to see you. Good to Ralph. Good to see you. Have a great day.
Likewise. Thank you, Rabbi.
Take care. Would 6:15 work today? 4:15 instead of 4:30, or your book? You can check. We skip from here in this area until right here. So pass the Tanah. Turn around. We skip this, please. Welcome.